Hello, internet friends. Welcome back once again, and thank you all so very much for joining me here today. In the topic of discussion for this video, I have some good news, I have some unfortunate news, and I have what I like to consider a little bit of real talk. What you're going to be watching here is my last squat of week 12 of this training block, my deadlifts, which ended up getting a little bit heavy. I pulled a 720 at around 1 a.m. Just because I had gotten my workout pushed back that far, and you're going to see some bench pressing, and then the next day you're going to see some bench pressing also after midnight. But anyway, into the topic here. First, the bad news, and that is we as individuals have a tendency when we are trying to be self-reflective and we're trying to figure out kind of where we stand in reference to our ability levels, we have a tendency to romanticize our best performances and our highest level, and a lot of the time we run into the issue of kind of putting that as our baseline. If you have a really good meet or you have a good workout and it feels awesome, we're really good at tricking ourselves into thinking that's the new norm. That's how it always is. But unfortunately, for the most part, your best performances and your highest level are not a great representation of you as a whole when you're really being honest with yourself. And that's kind of an unfortunate thing to think about. But the good news is that there is another side to that coin, which is when you are struggling, when you are on the downswing of those things, when you are lower than what you would consider your expected performance level, that is also not the best representation of your ability, of your level. When you're in the middle of a fatigue debt, or when you're coming off of an injury, or you're coming back from a situation that you're kind of having to build some things up, that's not necessarily the best determining factor in terms of your level and where you should rank yourself in terms of your success or not. The most accurate way, in my opinion, in my experience, to kind of rate yourself and to really be honest and engage in your progress is that you become not your best work, not your worst work, but you are the sum average of your work. You are what you can do consistently, and that level has a tendency to trend upward as a whole. So if you take the kind of like if we're working on a percentage system, if you take the top 10%, you take the bottom 10%, you cut those away, that middle 80% is a little bit closer to realistically what your ability level is, what your capability is for any given day. And the reason this is I think an important topic. It's not just because I want to necessarily cut people down if they're feeling they're coming off of a good performance, or tell them that to not be reflective or self-critical when they're having kind of one of those low points. But it's just kind of to keep your perspective accurate, in that your consistency really is the best gauge. What you can do repeatedly, that's what you want to be improving. You want to improve that level, because if that level comes up, the other two extremes will improve also. If your average level of performance is constantly on the rise, you have that higher ceiling that you can potentially reach. And the good news about it is you also improve your ability to kind of exist in that upper range of things. That also, your lowest level, what you might consider to be a bad day now, if you look a few years ago, and kind of what I talked about in the last commentary video, where that bottom level, your lowest self, has continued to improve a little bit too. And so I think this is less about trying to tell you something and trying to say this is how you should rate yourself, and this is how you should value yourself as a person. That's not what this is about. This is about using the information you have for constructive feedback in your approach to what you're doing. If the things that you're doing are not improving your average performance ability, if you are consistently having sessions, or you're consistently, in whatever your approach is, doing things and it feels like you're being overwhelmed, you may be rating your average level a little higher than it should be. You may be feeding too much off of that top end. If you come off of a great performance, you come off of a spectacular meet, and you set yourself as that when everything went perfect on that day, and you broke every single record and everything went amazingly, and that becomes your new expectation. Then it's more frustrating when you come back to kind of the reality and other things happen, life is happening and other stuff pops up, and you're not able necessarily to reach that highest level every single time. That is the norm. Uh, in most circumstances, not everything's going to go as well as your best possible scenario. Along the same lines, if you're and I guess what the point is there is that if that's happening to you, then you might be overestimating your level a little bit. You might have to scale back your approach and be a little bit more forgiving of some of those extenuating circumstances. It's not making an excuse, it's understanding more about who you are and what your actual capabilities are, and giving yourself a chance to grow in that, and not just constantly overwhelming yourself with other expectations. Along the same line, that bottom level, if you are constantly underestimating your ability and comparing yourself to your absolute lowest, you're just going to stay down there because your mentality is going to pull you back in. You're never going to have the confidence that's necessary to allow yourself to move forward. You're going to get stuck down there. So I guess the main point of this is try to be honest and realistic with yourself, but constantly strive to improve your baseline and to use that as the best gauge of your actual ability level, and let the all-time best kind of self stand as your all-time best, but recognize that that is not something that you necessarily have to do every single day, and that's not the level that you should expect from yourself every day. And that's the same way with the low points. Give yourself a little bit of leeway when you're measuring those, and if most of your process is going pretty well, or at least staying in that average zone, you have a couple of low points, as long as it's not a repeating trend, then you're probably on the right track, and you probably are in a better spot than you feel like you are. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoy the upload frequency. I'm really working hard on trying to get myself back on track. And thank you to everyone who's stuck around. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try my best to keep this up, and we'll see how things go. So thank you all very much, and I will talk to you very soon. Have a great day. Bye.